Welcome back, students, to the channel. Today we'll be looking at Unit 14, where we will be discussing the writing process. Okay, remember that this is for Unit 3701, where we are teaching English first additional language. Okay, the steps that we are going to go through is first a brief introduction, the planning or pre-writing phase, writing the first draft, revising and improving the draft, the editing stage, proofreading and presenting, and then using technology when writing, and then also ways to make writing fun through the use of technology. Then we will also look at some questions that you can engage with and think about for the forum. Right, so the introduction and what CAP says. So CAP says that most people think writing is simple and that the end product is the most important part of the writing. Very little is sometimes given to the thinking and decision-making processes followed during the writing process. The way of teaching has changed, and the new way or the new approach looks at writing as a process and not just as a grammatically correct end product. Okay, so CAP speaks about the writing process and the different steps which we are going to look at today. Right, so the planning and pre-writing phase, which is very important. Here, learners need to be orientated to the writing task. This stage is where learners get ideas for what they are going to be writing about in their paragraph, in their essay, in their story, depending on the type of text. Okay? Students need to ask themselves the following questions. What is the purpose of my task? Who is the audience? What is the main idea? And what supporting details and information do I need? Right, so you are going to help students answer these questions for themselves. Right, the following activities can be done in helping, the learners answer the questions that they put to themselves. So firstly, starting off with a vocabulary build-up. So remember, these are first additional language learners, so they do not have a large um, a large spread of vocabulary. So here we need to obviously help build up their vocabulary for the specific topic. So as a teacher, you can build up on their home language to do vocab build up. So what you can do is choose some words in English, translate it to the home language, and then translate it back into English. Get learners to also find the definitions in the dictionary. And then as a teacher, you need to plan for the stage what vocab would be relevant for the learners. So look at the topic and see what vocab they would need depending on what they're going to be writing about. You can also make ABC associations where learners can form ABC associations based on the topic that they will be writing about. They can also do word chains or mind maps. I've inserted a picture there of a mind map. So this learner is obviously writing about their best friend named Tandi, and then they have some ideas surrounding that. Okay. Learners can also conduct interviews. They can also explain to learners what structure and language features of a specific type of text, and of course present the students with some examples that they can relate back on. Okay, it's also a good idea if there's a specific structure that you would like them to follow, you can give them examples of that structure so they have a visual representation of what theirs needs to look like. Right, once the pre-writing has been done, remember that pre-writing might take a lesson or two. It's not done in, 5 minutes. It does take some time, so bear that in mind when you're taking learners through the writing process. Right, once the pre-writing has been done, learners should get the ideas on paper as quickly as possible. So if you did the pre-writing yesterday, try and do the writing of the first draft the next day. Okay, for successful writing, learners should grasp the importance of multiple drafts. Okay, it is also important to note that the first draft will usually be messy. Okay, so obviously learners will try and be neat and try and have the correct spelling, try and have the correct grammar, try and tell them that the first draft is just a practice. It will be messy, it doesn't need to have the correct spelling and so forth. They can correct all of that later on when they revise their draft. Okay, so the first draft is literally everything on paper in no specific order. Okay, once they've written their first draft, learners need to read over their first draft and even discuss it with their peers, with their friends, with their teachers. Okay, this is the stage to improve their draft so that they may move sentences around to better organize the main and supporting ideas. Okay, they may also add in or omit information from their draft. They may also correct spelling and grammar. This phase needs to be actively taught as young learners sometimes will be very unwilling or reluctant to change or rewrite their own work. Okay, multiple drafts are needed for learners to improve their writing. So, as a teacher, I think it's also important that you assess the process and not only assess the end product. So, assess, the pre writing phase, assess how they did their first draft, and then also assess their revising and how did they improve um, their, their draft. Okay, the editing stage. So obviously now they still have a draft. Okay, it might not be the first draft. This might be the third draft that they have now revised and rewritten. So they're now ready to do, editing is more the nitty-gritty stuff. Okay, so once learners have a draft that they feel satisfied with and in which feel that the main idea and supporting details are present and they are well organized, they may do corrections like spelling errors, grammar, and add in some punctuation. Okay, so you can see with the revising is they move information, around, they take out, they add in, and then they write another draft. The final draft that they are going to be looking at is where they look at the nitty-gritty stuff like the spelling, the grammar, and the punctuation. Right. So now that they are happy with their draft, and now they can rewrite their final draft that they are extremely happy about, they need to do a proofread. Okay? They proofread this final draft of their work before submitting or presenting it to the teacher for assessment. The learner needs to present a neat and legible version so that it is, it does look presentable and it is neat. Okay, presenting the final product can also be done in front of the class or the school, on a notice board, or in the school magazine and local newspaper. Okay, so students do need to reread their work a few times before they present it for assessment and present it in front of the class and so forth. Right, using technology to make the writing process a little bit easier and also to make it exciting, okay? Microsoft Word is a important tool that students need to be exposed to, okay? It can make writing easier because the editing and the spell check on the Word app is quite useful. Students can also use the dictionary, the thesaurus, as well as the translator. Okay, teachers' feedback can also be easy to track for learners because as teachers, we can add in comments on the side and not disrupt the actual draft. Okay, multimedia presentations. This allows learners to include sound, images, and animation, so this makes it fun and exciting. They can also include music to represent what they are writing about and also integrate speaking into presenting, part of the writing to the class. Right, some brief questions to answer on our forum today. Briefly explain what the writing process is. How can you incorporate technology in your writing lesson? And also, what activities can you use to draw learners' interest in the writing process? The writing process can be a long journey, and that's why we as teachers need to make it fun and exciting for learners and not only say, okay, here is a piece of paper, write an essay. Okay, think of innovative ways that can really make your lessons very exciting and interesting for the learners. Okay, remember to engage in the forum for each unit that you complete. That is very important. Thank you, students, and good luck. And I look forward to your engagement on the forum. All the best.